Africa have intertwined relations, and this has been the case throughout the Mountain Kingdom's recent political turbulence. The country's new Prime Minister, Dr. Moeketsi Majoro, says that Basotho have welcomed their government and urged them to stop fighting. Let's now flesh out the road thus far, and joining us is political analyst Dr. Moletsane Monyake. Thanks so much for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Peter, and good evening to your listeners.
Always good to talk to you. How significant is this first visit by the new Prime Minister to South Africa?
It's extremely important, Peter, and this is one of the things that a lot of people in the middle class in Lesotho have been hoping that the Prime Minister will make a priority. Because, as he said in his address, Lesotho is right in the belly of South Africa, and a lot of people in the middle class use services from South Africa. A lot of very expensive vehicles are serviced, are repaired in South Africa. We get our services, we get approximately 70% of our food from South Africa, and a lot of these people who cross the border to South Africa have been complaining about the mistreatment, as it were, at the border post. There have been a lot of, restrictions in terms of movement of goods and services across the borders, and a lot of people have been disgruntled about these things. I think earlier this week there was a report, some media reports that the South African side has increased the measures and the procedures that one has to go through in order to bring goods into Lesotho. And this was a cause for concern for a lot of traders and a lot of business people who import stuff from South Africa. So I believe that this is a point that the Prime Minister has scored in these few days in the office. And of course, this is also something that he had indicated that he will actually do immediately to try and smoothen the relationship between the two countries, and he has actually delivered on that. And I believe that this is something that will score him points moving forward.
What do you think caused some of these challenges over time? And if we think about historically, Basotho have always been coming to South Africa, particularly to work on the mines. So it was almost as if, it was just an extension of both countries. So what caused the strains in between?
I think domestic factors, Peter, on both countries. First, starting with South Africa. South Africa has had a problem with an influx of foreigners. And unfortunately, the growing grievances and discontent among South Africans in terms of these migrants who are coming from African countries and, taking up the space in the townships, setting up shops, taking, low-skilled jobs in the trucking business, in the mines and et cetera, have really caused a stir and, some sort of, a lot of discontent among ordinary South Africans, leading to South Africa taking a very, strict stance against migration, and really trying to pander and trying to exploit these grievances to score political points. But in Lesotho also, one domestic factor was, our weak, civic registration system. There have been indications that there are people who come from as far as Pakistan, Nigeria, who come into Lesotho to get the passport and then cross over to South Africa as Basotho nationals. So This weak registration and immigration systems in Lesotho have really also caused Africa to really tighten up at the border gate. And I think these are the two major domestic factors that really led to these changes in the migrations relations between the two countries.
All right, and they're talking about a much freer movement of people and goods going forward. That will change the dynamic significantly.
Absolutely, it will change the dynamics on the ground, and I think when the Prime Minister talks about the civil servants on both sides of the border working together to try and thresh out the modalities of implementing these agreements, one of the things that I think are going to be implemented is to ensure that everybody who holds a Lesotho passport is really a citizen of this country. There have been reports in this country that there are some Chinese nationals who actually have Lesotho passport and Lesotho ID documents under the names of Basotho. Whether or not those individuals are now Basotho nationals or these individuals have fraudulently acquired these documents, it's a matter for further investigation. But these are some of the concerns that countries have towards Lesotho's immigration systems and passport holders. So I believe that the public servants on both sides of the border have to really sit down and ensure that the systems are watertight. They are strong enough to prohibit any fraudulent issuing of passport to non-Lesotho nationals.
They also talked about the stability that seems to have come and hoping that it will hold. And I just wonder, will it hold? Is this a grouping coming together? Do you think that the country can build on?
Yes, I think this is the grand coalition between the two largest political parties in Lesotho has been something that a lot of experts have been touting as the lasting solutions to the political instability that has rocked this country for quite a long time now. And it's something that I believe, if it is handled properly, can actually last the distance and take this country to the next elections in 2022. And again, as I said, the appointment, the election of Dr. Majoro as the Prime Minister has been welcomed, especially by people who understand the politics in this country, because for the first time we have somebody who really inspires confidence in terms of his understanding of what's going on in Lesotho's economy, and somebody who is not your typical politician, your song and dance sort of politician who doesn't understand what's going on, but is good with the crowd. And secondly, Mr. Moeketsi, the Deputy Prime Minister, he's in his 40s, Peter, and this is one of the youngest individuals to hold that office in the history of Lesotho, and this country really has never been led by young people who understand almost 60% of the population in this country. So these are the things that people say, if we have these individuals, at the top of the political echelons, then we probably will be able to have some semblance of stability in Lesotho's politics. Over and above that, last week or 2 weeks ago, we saw the deputy leader of ABC, Professor Mahao, joining the Senate, the upper house of Parliament, and subsequently being appointed as the Minister of Justice, Law and Constitutional Affairs. And so now having someone from the party, the ABC, in Parliament, it removes that three centers of power dynamic that presented itself, whereby you had the leader of the party being Tom Tabane outside of government, and then none of the deputy leader also not being in Parliament, not being in government, and then having the Prime Minister. And some people have been referring to that as three centers of power. So now having Professor Mahao in government removes at least one dimension of that dynamic, and I think it should really portend stability of government. The only danger, though, is the brewing grievances among the backbenchers in the All Basotho Convention, who are complaining that some of the individuals who have been appointed into cabinet do not have a political weight to occupy a cabinet position, and they specifically point out to the Minister of Labour, who is a former, in quotes, leader of one of the smaller partners in Parliament, the Reformed Congress of Lesotho. She has been alienated by her own political party,
Yes.
who has the
But
party has
I
rejected
wonder-
her as their leader, and they believe that.
I'm going to have to jump in there
Yeah.
because we're running out of time, but I was just wondering that perhaps maybe that's all about trying to get to 2022 in one piece. I can't leave without asking you to comment about the police saying that they have evidence that assassins were paid by Tom Tabane and his wife to kill his estranged wife, the late Dipolelo.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the revelations and the details that were contained in this affidavits were shocking, Peter. The amounts of money involved, upwards of 3 million, that were promised to the assassins, and the revelations that the Prime Minister himself basically pointed to the assassins the house of his former wife. These are new detailed revelations about how it actually went on, and I don't see the Prime Minister weathering the storm, and I believe that he will have his day in court. As the police have actually said that in terms of trying to tie the loose ends, the Prime Minister's case is very strong, and they can pounce on him anytime from today. And I believe that really he will have his day in court soon.
All right, and that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much, always, for your insights into what's happening in the mountain kingdom of Lesotho. That's Moletsane Monyake, who's joining us there from Lesotho. Thanks so much indeed for your time.